Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:07. It's O'Connor and Company here on this Monday morning in your nation's capital. Coming up in 30 minutes, Shawn Carney, president of 40 Days for Life, talk about this man caught on video attacking a pro-life protester, pummeling his face, bloodying him, disfiguring him, and he got a slap on the wrist because I guess it's open season on pro-life protesters. That's what it serves him right for praying and all that. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Did you have a nice weekend?
I did.
Just like
my husband and my son went to Buc-ee's in Virginia. It was an exciting weekend over here.
That is exciting. They went to a gas station. Impressive.
Very important gas station.
We've been watching the mayor's race in Manhattan, New York City, to be specific, with great intensity as, you know, listen, they had two horrible Democrats running for the nomination. Andrew Cuomo, who had to resign in disgrace. He's a much hated figure, corrupt, awful person. So, of course, Democrats were like begging to have an alternative. And then they got this guy who is like in the mold of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but worse. Full-on communist. He has hardly any experience, only been a citizen to the country for 6 years.
Yeah. Yep.
And by the way, the race is heating up. Andrew Cuomo, I have to say, he's running as an independent since the commie Mamdani, Zorhan Mamdani, got the nomination. And Cuomo's got a really effective tactic right now. I guess Mamdani was complaining about rent control issues in a debate where he was talking about how he's got a apartment in, I think, Astoria, Queens for $2,300 a month, which is quite affordable in New York, by the way. And, of course, so he's in a rent-controlled apartment, and his family, they're multimillionaires.
Yeah.
And Andrew Cuomo is like, there's nothing wrong with rent control except for rich people exploiting the system. You have no business getting rent control. What are you talking about, dude? And so he's sort of going after Mamdani's hypocrisy here. So it's interesting to watch. Eric Adams, I think, might still make some inroads. I don't think Curtis Sliwa is going to get above the threshold that he generally gets here. It's a very crowded field.
It's a mess. But I will also say about rent control in New York, it's also generational. Like you can inherit a rent controlled apartment. You can go off, go to Columbia, go to some, big university, and then go to Wall Street and make millions of dollars, and then you can inherit a rent as you're well off now, can afford a normal rent in New York. And so the system there is completely corrupt.
Yes.
And by the way, I would love to inherit a rent controlled apartment, by the way.
Exactly. It would be great. But everybody knows that. I mean, I lived in New York, 30 plus years ago, and everybody knew that about rent control in New York. All right. It is interesting. It's heating up. We're watching it keenly. And I want to draw your attention to an exchange that happened on Bill Maher's show, Equal Time, on HBO this weekend. Bill Maher was hosting George Will, the 84-year-old conservative who, yes, Trump sort of broke his brain, but he's not a dumb man. He's intelligent. He's smart. And he's watching this transpire.
But he's a massive disappointment. Sorry, I was a huge George Will fan.
Me too. Well, I want you to listen to this about basically George Will says, conservatives should be rooting for this guy because he'll ruin the city, and then that's how you learn lessons. It's one of those, you tell a kid not to touch a hot stove, but they don't really learn until they burn their hand. All right, take a listen. Cut 20.
This must be horrible for a guy like you, who you spent your whole life talking about how government tries to do too much, which it does, and spends too much. And here you have Trump, who is the Republican, who is aggrandizing more power than anybody, as we just talked about. And on the other side, you have the guy running in New York, Mamdani, right? Okay, who's like a straight-up communist. I mean, he is. He talks about, the things that communists say. I mean, he wants free grocery stores, free buses.
I want him to win.
You want him to win?
Yeah. I think every 20 years or so.
Wait.
We need
Go ahead. Let him finish.
Every 20 years or so, we need a conspicuous confined experiment with socialism so we can crack it up again. Socialist slogan used to be, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. The new socialist slogan is, trust us, this time it won't be a mess.
Now, I get it, and he has a point, but here's the problem, if I could. And it's funny, I say this all the time, when will New York elect a Republican? When it gets that bad, when it's bad enough. And I would think normally after de Blasio it was bad enough, but it hasn't been bad enough. I get the inkling and understand what George Will is saying here. Here's the problem with communists, though, especially, radical ones like this. They never concede defeat, and the people who vote for them never concede defeat. I understand it's a great, confined experiment. Let socialism go in there. It'll fail and then move on. Number one, people are going to suffer because of it, and I don't want anyone to suffer. But number two, the response is never, oh, I guess you're right, socialism didn't work. No. It's always, they never say we were wrong. They say we didn't go far enough.
That's right.
They'll just go on steroids.
I will also say, I've had some conversations with some never-Trumpers, Larry, as I know you have. This is how they feel about Trump. They think everything's going to go back to normal. They do. I've actually, they're so delusional. They don't understand how much we have changed, how much we appreciate that fight. They don't get it. They think it's going to go back to the party of McCain and Romney. They really do. And I've heard them say this to me personally. We just need to wait it out. So George Will is also conveying his thoughts on Trump, that it's not just, he thinks, we just have to experience this Trump thing, that people are going to, go back to, not wearing jeans, the George Will thing. He never wears jeans, and they're going to all be civilized again, and we're all going to go back to normal. They believe this. And you forget about when he talks about that, it does bother me. And you mentioned it, the suffering that is going to be experienced by New Yorkers because of this, and it will expand throughout the United States.
Well, they will. They'll say, okay, well, the reason that socialism isn't working here in Manhattan is because of the state government or because of the federal government. Right. You just keep going and going and going. It never ends. Rent freezes lead to housing shortages. They call for full government control of the rental market. Grocery store shelves thin out under price caps. They'll demand state-run distribution and production. The worse it gets, the more power they claim. That's how it always is. And George Will should be smart enough to know that. Cut 22 here, he brings it back to Britain and what happened there with socialism. Listen.
So, when the post-war Labour government in Britain was about to get started, one of their leading lights was a socialist named Nurian Bevan. He said, what could go wrong? He said, we have a nation bedded on coal, surrounded by fish. It would take an organizational genius to have a shortage of either. In 3 years, they had a shortage of both. That's socialism.
That's right. But they also created the national health system. They socialized their hospitals and all of their doctors, and they're still suffering because of it today. And it took 30 years until Margaret Thatcher came in there and reversed the socialism. You're right. They had shortages, but it was irreversible eventually.
And frankly, Great Britain, I mean, they are no longer this great superpower as they used to be. They are crippled by some of these programs, and then mass immigration, again, another sort of policy of that left-wing government, mass immigration into Britain has changed that country forever to the point that people are being jailed if they insult someone.
As much as I would love for New York to go through this, okay, let them learn their lesson thing, and you reap what you sow, let's go, this is what you deserve. No, we can't even flirt with it. We can't. We're no longer in that position. So I respectfully disagree with my elder, George Will. It's 8:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Who is Reid Hoffman? Well, if the election in Virginia this November goes the Democrats' way, he'll basically be the man who owns a governor. Alex Marlowe at Breitbart reporting that mega donor Reid Hoffman who bankrolled the E. Jean Carroll defamation suit against President Trump, that bogus, ridiculous, awful,
Fake.
stupid,
Yes.
made-up thing that they created just so they could say, "Oh, he's a convicted sexual." Yeah, well, he helped launch PayPal. And then he created LinkedIn. He's actually Elon Musk's arch enemy, which is kind of fun. He's called the most connected man in Silicon Valley. And you might be wondering, wait a second, why would a big, high-tech, most connected man in Silicon Valley be interested in the Virginia governor's race? Well, good question. Virginians should be asking themselves that when they vote, because he has donated, get this, $350,000 to the Spanberger for Virginia campaign.
He lives in California, and we talk about this all the time. It is the Californication of Virginia. It is, and honestly, Larry, earlier today, you mentioned a policy that is more liberal than Oregon.
We're about to get to that. We are.
Okay.
We're going to play that right now. But real quickly, one other donor, $50,000. We told you about this member of the Chinese Communist Party.
Wow.
He met with Xi Jinping, met with Biden and Hunter Biden. In fact, his name shows up in Hunter Biden's emails.
Oh, God.
He donates to both parties, but mostly Democrats. He's got ties to Governor Pritzker, and he funds something called U.S.-China exchange trips. Why is he pumping $50,000 into Abigail Spanberger's campaign? Why isn't Abigail
Curious.
Spanberger asking that question?
Yeah.
Well,
This is, yeah.
that's who's funding this campaign. And now here's a video that has now been unearthed. I don't know when this took place, but it was when Abigail Spanberger was a elected official. This is at a forum of a group called the Social Workers, National Association of Social Workers. Listen to the question framed here about doctor-assisted suicide, but most specifically, the question is framed within the context of religious-based hospitals and doctors with strong religious beliefs who oppose assisted suicide, whether they should be allowed to exercise their freedom of religion. Listen.
Some religious healthcare institutions, most notably Catholic health institutions and systems, routinely place themselves in the middle of the doctor-patient relationship and prohibit their doctors from informing patients that medical aid in dying isn't even an option. What are your thoughts on legislation that would legalize medical aid in dying? And more generally, what are your thoughts on permitting religious healthcare institutions to dictate what their physicians are allowed to discuss with their patients?
Dictate. You hear the tone from these social workers.
Well, geez, social workers.
But understand something. A perfectly reasonable liberal response could be, listen, I personally support doctor-assisted suicide. I think that people should have the choice. However, at the same time, I don't think the government should get in the way of somebody's personal religious beliefs. If they're conscious, if they have a disagreement, they shouldn't be compelled to do something like this if it's against their moral
Democrats
behavior.
have had plenty of practice with this on abortion.
That's
I'm
right.
Catholic. I'm a Catholic, but you should be able to kill your baby, right? That's...
Well, listen to Abigail Spanberger's response here about, again, this is not just about physician-assisted suicide. This is about Catholic or other religious institutions or individuals being compelled to carry out this action, this sinful, in my opinion, and most anyone who's Catholic will think of this as a sin, and Abigail Spanberger wants the government to compel someone to break their religion. Listen.
So I support, and I would support legislation that legalizes the right to die with dignity of a person's choosing, and that would include allowing for medical providers to provide prescriptions for life-ending prescriptions. I oppose the ability of religious institutions to put their religious-based ideas on individuals and their healthcare choices and options. I believe that we should trust people to have relationships with their healthcare providers that lead them to make strong decisions based on their medical practices. And I do not believe that people should have the option to allow their own personal beliefs to dictate the type of medical care that they are providing their patients.
Wow.
Do you hear that? It is.
Yep.
It is so civilized. It is. I trust people to make their bed. It's the same. It's the exact same argument on abortion, but it is absolutely terrifying.
Basically, she's advocating for the government to intrude on a person's personal, religious, and ethical and moral beliefs.
That's right.
And say you're not allowed to hold that belief if you want to be a doctor in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yeah, and think of what this would do. I mean, you would, first of all, ethical doctors would leave the state. They couldn't operate here.
That's
they wouldn't be able to operate.
Let me be, and I alluded to this earlier. Earlier this year, my father went into hospice care in Oregon. He was dying. He did die. But about 6 weeks before he passed away, I was in Oregon. I was facilitating him moving into a care facility. And as I read through the admissions documentation, there was a clause in there that said, although physician-assisted suicide is legal in the state of Oregon, it is against the moral and religious beliefs of the ownership of this facility, and we will not allow or participate in physician-assisted suicide on the premises. In other words, in Oregon, legally, they could do that. If Abigail Spanberger is governor of Virginia, based on that answer, you would not. It would be more radical here than Oregon, Julie Gunlock. More radical than Oregon.
And remember, it's not just this particular issue, okay? No. It is on abortion. It is transing your child, okay? That's right. That if you refuse this gender-affirming care, I hate to use their words, it could be a felony. That's what she wants, okay? They will take choices from you in every area. They will take away your ability to live according to your religious beliefs.
You know, now the funding from the Chinese Communist Party and $350,000 from this Silicon Valley guy is all starting to make sense now.
Makes sense. Yep, it does.
824.
Making sense of your world.
I agree with you 100%.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
There's a lot of us out there.
Making sense of the news.
Coming up, we're going to talk to Shawn Carney, president of 40 Days for Life, about that terrible attack on a pro-lifer in Baltimore. That attacker got a slap on the wrist. We'll discuss it. Keep it here. It's 8:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:37 on O'Connor and Company. Coming up in 30 minutes, we're going to hand it off to Christopher Plant. You may know him as Chris Plant. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Joining us right now is Shawn Carney. He's the president of 40 Days for Life. And Shawn, first of all, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back.
I saw this video of pro-life protest. Call them protesters is not even appropriate because these days protesting from the left is, vandalism and burning things down and stopping traffic. This is a couple of people who oppose abortion, who are in favor of letting babies survive pregnancy and survive the womb, who were praying and just sort of demonstrating in front of an abortion mill, and they were brutally, violently attacked. Where did this take place? Give us the details, Shawn.
Yeah, so this was, a peaceful vigil, and this is an elderly gentleman, and you can see the video. This has happened to us before in San Francisco. It's happened like this one on the East Coast. And when it's on video, it's easy to catch the guy. I mean, even in San Francisco, we were able to bring a guy to justice who beat up an 87-year-old man, a volunteer for 40 Days for Life. But this guy gets caught. He goes before the judge. She essentially lets him off with a slap on the wrist. There's no real punishment. And, when it's on video, it's another example of how we don't need a tyrant or a king in the United States of America. We have judges, and they rule us, and they're doing, unfortunately, a good job of it because you see whether it's pro-life laws, whether you see it's incidents like this, there are so many on the left, particularly judges, that have made abortion their sacrament. And if you oppose it on any level, you're just unworthy of justice at all. And this is a prime example of that.
Oh, it's so hard to watch, and I'm curious about the man who was attacked. He's had some lingering problems because of this attack. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I mean, he called us right when it happened, and he was really beat up. He was hospitalized. You can see the photos all over the news articles. And he didn't do anything wrong. This isn't like an argument where he's provoking somebody. There's none of this. These guys come up off the street and just attack him. They're clearly, bigger, stronger, faster. He's an elderly gentleman, and any one of us in that position would have lost. And so I think it's I can't explain it. I hate to sound so cliche, but can you imagine the shoe being on the other foot? Can you imagine some pro-lifers going up to a pro-abortion person and beating them up on the street and, leaving them there? He could have died. That's the thing that happened here. Yeah. It also happened to our 87-year-old volunteer in San Francisco. Elderly people, die from this kind of stuff all the time. And there was no repercussions, whatsoever. I do think the sense of justice has been the media coverage of, if you take your average reproductive rights supporter, they don't want this happening. They don't want this to be the representation of abortion rights, but it has been for the last couple of years for the left.
This is Baltimore, by the way, and the prosecutor, to their credit, called for a 10-year sentence against this person. His name's Patrick Bryce, who pummeled this poor elderly gentleman who was sitting vigil in front of Planned Parenthood. Instead, Baltimore Circuit Judge Yvette Bryant said, nope, sorry, no 10-year sentence here. Instead, after being found guilty of 2 counts of second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, this guy was sentenced to a year of home detention. So he basically gets to sit at home and watch Netflix and play video games.
And Mark, who's the guy who got beat up, he's
73-year-old Mark Crosby.
Ugh.
Unbelievable. And this is it's just inexcusable. It's absolutely inexcusable, and this judge deserves public ridicule and embarrassment. This can't go on in the United States of America. And when you have a 73-year-old man beaten, basically because somebody disagrees with his beliefs,
right.
And that's not what we do.
Beliefs. Yeah, I want to be clear here because I think we're understating how badly. This person was absolutely brilliant. There is a shot of this 74-year-old man lying on the sidewalk in the fetal position after being knocked down, and this thug, Patrick Bryce, kicked him in the face. You can see him. He looks like he's kicking a field goal for the Ravens.
Yeah.
With his leg cocked back. It was all caught on video. This man was disfigured because of this attack. And this judge decided, stay home for a year. And you're right. If this had happened against a Black Lives Matter protester or any other, it would be, first of all, it would be a national story, let alone the punishment would be worse. Do you fear that it's open season right now in certain states? This is Westmore's, Maryland, where this happened. Do you fear that it's open season on pro-life prayers, protesters, vigil keepers?
I don't. I did, but remember that this happened during the Biden DOJ, and the Biden DOJ persecuted us at 40 Days for Life and all pro-life activists for 4 miserable years, and Trump has undone a lot of that. We're still currently suing the Biden DOJ on behalf of one of our volunteers who had his house raided. But a lot of this has ceased since the election, and this is kind of grandfathered in. And I think this judge is doing a flex of, this stuff isn't going on anymore, so she's going to let this guy off. But under Biden, this was a huge problem for us. But I'm very optimistic about the future because stuff like this is just not tolerated by the current DOJ. Thank God.
That's good to hear. It's 40 Days for Life is the organization. Shawn Carney, please give this victim our best and let him know that we're praying for him. He has a GoFundMe going, doesn't he?
Yes, he has a GoFundMe, and if you Google Mark Crosby, you'll see the pictures of him in the hospital, and that's even worse than the video. So, help him any way you can.
Mark Crosby, GoFundMe, Mark Crosby, if you want to help him out.
This afternoon on the Derek Hunter Show, Democrats are going to hate you anyway. We might as well make fun of them in the process. 3 o'clock on WMAL.
Julie Gunlock, do you remember when mooning was a big thing?
I do, in fact. I do.
Mooning. You could do the half moon with just one cheek exposed, or you could do the full moon. But a mooning, basically dropping trowel, bending over, and showing somebody your bare behind. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Apparently, it's making a comeback.
Oh, dear.
Mooning is, don't tell your kids, please. The
Right.
teenage boys love doing this. And in fact, get this. Did you know that in the state of Maryland, a 2006 state court ruling determined that mooning was protected political speech under the First Amendment?
Really? Well,
I mean, that's Maryland for you.
there you go.
And so Maryland resident Adam Harper out of Frederick decided to, utilize and exploit that 2006 court ruling at a Maryland City Council meeting. He is not a teenage boy, although one suspects that Mr. Harper was a teenage boy back in the 70s when mooning was a big deal back then. He went to the city council meeting and, displayed his posterior. Take a listen.
This is my opinion of you communists. Wow. God bless the USA. Wow. And vote for Derek Hunter in this election cycle.
And vote for who? This was meant to actually promote a candidate, Derek Harvey. I'm not sure who that is, but there you go. This is what I think of you communist beeps. And then he bent over and showed it all off.
Goodness. Well, that's our culture for you. Although I have to say, at one time in the 80s, we always talk about this show, you and I. In the 80s, mooning was such a big deal that there was a major primetime television show called St. Elsewhere, and they actually had a mooning scene on network TV. I remember my mother being so appalled.
Yes. Oh, well, that's like romper room compared to what we have now. But that was a big deal. There he is. He did it. I don't know. Somebody had reached out and said, "Are you going to get this guy on the show?" And I'm like, I don't know how long that interview would take.
No, do it on Friday. Patrice would handle him really well.
I mean, you got to admit, it's kind of a cheeky move for this guy to do such a thing.
Larry. I didn't get
Sorry,
that.
I don't mean to make him the butt of our jokes. I'm sorry. What? No?
Are you here all week?
Guys, if you are going to do this, by the way, and start mooning all over Maryland, could you do me just make sure that everything's sort of cleaned up before you do this? We don't want any. Don't need.
Sit down. Do it and leave.
It's 8:52.